Okay, let me finish out this example real fast. So now what I like to do is just explore and plot something kind of cool. One of the problems I have, though, is that date, this column, is actually still a string. And I think I can do that with class. Class is another function that tells me what data type we have. So if I can see that data is a data frame, or let me try this one. What I want to do is I want to apply a function to every column of class, and the function I want to apply is I want to apply it to every column of data, and the function is class. There we go. So what I can see is that data is a factor, and if you haven't dealt with factors, they're like characters, except that what it does in the back end is it just assigns every level a numeric value. So that, for example, A, B, and C would get mapped to 1, 2, 3. Right? It's just for speeding it up. And there's other things you can do too with factors that are somewhat unique from characters. But the point is, to make the rest of the analysis go smooth, sometimes we need to change the data type. So what I'm doing here is I'm selecting the from that column, I'm going to select all of the dates, and I'm going to strip out the time using this format, and then I'm going to convert those times into POSIX CT. So again, this is nested functions, right? And it's a little bit complex, but running this will basically create a new column, as we see here, a new column titled date time, and that's a time variable.
Well, and so this is part of the data cleansing process, because I mean, if we were to run a graph from this data without doing this kind of cleansing, you'd get, you know, dates all over the place. You wouldn't get it in a line that you want it to be in, and so we've got to go through this. What you might run into is that you do run the graph and you see it just out of whack. Well, you know, typically you want to go and make sure that your data is clean, such as with this as a text, it's not going to recognize that it's a date. It's not going to put it in the right order that it's going to get into. And even if we did that histogram with the numbers being actually text, you wouldn't be able to get a histogram out of it.
Exactly.
So you're going to run into, it's trial and error. And like the book cover we had, you try something different and you keep trying until you get the answer. And so that's what we're running into. We're already planning ahead because we knew that data was not right yet. So we had to change the class. We had to make sure that it was going to work with whatever graph that we're doing. Otherwise, you will run into, hey, this doesn't look right, or I didn't get anything. Let's run what Alton had with the function and say, what actually data types am I working with? And even if you did a join, it doesn't recognize it as far as like the data sets. It can't merge something that's text that's an integer, and so you'll run into those types of things, and data cleansing is probably your #1 thing that you've got to turn to be able to say, I've got to clean this up to make it all match up for the program and for the data types that I'm working with.
Yep.
So.
And just like Jason said, it is important, you know, and this is a very valuable part of a tool like this, to be able to do these cleansings and these data transformations and the joins. But then, just as important, you need to be able to bring that out and put that into your other pipeline, or to be able to visualize it, or you know, put it in Tableau, or whatever the next step is that you're doing. And so that's why I wanted to demonstrate the write.csv. This is one of the methods you can use to get data back out. And since we're working in my home directory, and when I hit run on this, it's going to save the data frame titled data to this file, but this time it's not going to include row names. which is just a subtlety. And there's lots of other parameters that you could choose here, but that just wrote it back out to disk so that I can pick it up and do something with it later, or as a checkpoint. Okay, so now that we have it in here, one of the more powerful things that people use R for is its visualization capabilities. So with that, let's skip that example. Let's do this. In this case, this is one of the ways that you can generate a plot. I can say with, using the function with, I pass in my data frame, and then I can pass in a series of functions that I want it to use on that data frame, and it's going to treat these variables as local variables that can't be seen outside in the global environment because there's not a variable named strike. Strike is only within data. So if I run this, for example, what happens is it'll immediately run all 1, 2, 3 and just display them here in plots. But to get back to them, I just have to use the back arrow. Alternatively, I could also write it like this. Where I specifically call out the X and Y columns that I want it to plot, and then hit Control Enter, or hit Run. So what am I looking at here? This is the strike price, meaning, again, this is a bet in the future. Maybe this is a little deep on options, but it's kind of fun to think about, something to brag about tonight at the bar, right? So the strike price is in the future, say next Friday, how much do I think it's going to go up or down below this price? And this on the side is how many days in the future that is. So this is 7 days from now or 10 days from now. So as we get closer and closer, these puts and these calls are going to intersect at the point where the stock truly sells on that day in the future. It's a complex way, but so the point is that for the data that you care about and for what you want to see, you have so much flexibility in R to be able to manipulate that. I'll show one other quick example of kind of wrapping it all together. Again, using with, I can select my data frame. So here I'm creating a flag or an indicator where I'm taking all of the expiration values whenever it's going to expire on the 15th, and also whenever it's a call. So whenever my option is a call. And this will just give me that one side. So here basically as we get closer and closer to the day that that this stock will execute, or sorry, the day that this option will execute, then it gets closer and closer to the true trading value of the stock, the underlying stock itself. Okay, that's probably enough as far as stocks go, and unless you have other.
No, that's good. I mean, it's just showing that correlation between, I mean, it comes simply down to, like, you can do days, you can do, the prices, there's all sorts of different things you can plot out, and so it's just picking your X value or your Y value and putting them together and saying, okay, what's the correlation? And you can see that they had an inverse relationship because puts do, and simply put, puts do exactly the opposite of what calls do. And you can see that it came together, it just kind of proved the concept that they are perfect opposites. And there's various things that you can do with other data sets. Go ahead.
The tool itself, is it like command line happy? Like, can you create something like this, and then from an external program, from a command line, call it and point it to the right data set, and then have some output, even one of these graphic outputs, and then have that available for your external app to just grab?
Yep, exactly. In fact, I do that all the time. Just knowing that you can do that's probably enough for this, right? But to put that into context, up here, as I was working in my IDE, I'm manipulating and changing a R Markdown file, and this file I can hit save and either execute the entire thing up here, or I can run it from the command line, just as you say, right? And just as before, as it's loading and saving files, it'll do the same thing behind the scenes without headless, really, without the IDE. Great question. Is there any other questions before we kind of shift gears to another topic and move forward? Yeah, somebody forgot their phone here, which is awkward, because I don't even know how to use that to turn it off.
Oh, so that's not your phone. That's not his phone.
Stick it out there somewhere. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Oh, is that your phone? Okay. So yeah, let's move on to something cool. Okay, yeah, let's leave that behind. Lay that to rest. Wow. Okay, that was too deep for a long day.
And don't think of the complexity of the data. Like I said, I mean, you're plotting two variables together or multiple variables together and kind of putting it up on the screen for people.